Well, there's dissatisfaction over government's pace in building permanent homes for the families displaced by the floods in KwaZulu-Natal earlier this year. Yesterday, disgruntled residents in Reservoir Hills raised concern about a building used to house flood victims. The residents say that building is not suitable. We can speak now about the situation to Abahlali baseMjondolo on the plight of the flood survivors. I'm joined by the organization's Thapelo Mohapi. Thapelo, very good afternoon to you. Grateful for your time as always. Do you get a sense that finally government is moving at a satisfactory pace in addressing the needs of the people who lost their homes in the floods in April?
Good afternoon to the viewers as well. There is a failure on the government side to actually deal with the issues that people are facing on the ground. From our understanding, we had a media briefing with the previous MEC as well as the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal at the time, to say the people that are living in that particular area in Reservoir Hills were going to be allocated a piece of land where TRU, temporary relocation housing, was going to be built. To our surprise now that the new administration that took over from the ANC with the new MEC, with the new Premier, is now considering renting a building next to that place. It is very concerning that discussions that we've had a long time ago with the community, with everyone else, every stakeholders and those who are concerned, are now taken backwards by the new administration that now needs to rethink the plan that was previously put in place. It is very disappointing that political decisions are at some stage hindering the progress in government, because now we have a new MEC for human settlements who comes with a new agenda. We have a new Premier that comes to an agenda, and that takes us a step back. And it shouldn't be that people who had been affected by floods in April are still in community halls as we speak. Some have even given up on government. So there is a political will, a lack of political will from the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government to deal with the issue of the people who are affected by floods.
Well, the Premier, in pitching this change of, shall we say, strategy or the plan for the people who are affected by the floods, basically said what's now going to happen is that there'll be a focus on permanent housing versus the more temporary solution that was being considered by the previous Premier, at the time. Do you not think that's reason enough then to wait these couple of weeks until the end of November, which is when they believe that they'll have been able to sort everything out?
Well, the problem is right there. And the MEC for human settlement, the previous MEC, also had the same approach. That TRUs were a mechanism for people to live for that temporary. Because remember, we are in a disaster. And if you are dealing with a disaster, you need some, measures that are going to be quick. Right now, we have a dilemma where people are going to spend Christmas in community halls, and which government does not want to. That government is denying it at the moment. The idea of the TRUs was actually exactly the same, to say that we are going to build TRUs in the meantime while we are in a crisis, but we are looking at turning those TRUs into permanent residents. Now, there was a piece of land that was located in Reservoir Hills where people were originally living. The Premier made a media briefing. The MEC at the time made a media briefing. And then here comes a new MEC, here comes a new Premier. It's a complete strategy. And it was working very well at that time, because as Abahlali baseMjondolo, who actually represents the people on the ground, particularly in that area, were involved, all stakeholders were involved, and even the Ratepayers Association, the people who are concerned, were involved, and we were able to sit down around the table and discuss this. But I must say also that there's a crisis that we are having in KwaZulu-Natal, where we need to have a social cohesion and discussion, because there are those people who believe that they are privileged and therefore others are not supposed to live next to them. I understand that there are concerns of people that are saying that there will be noise, and there are people who are saying that people should get permanent housing because once they are put in those buildings, they will not be allocated housing because government has a tendency of dumping people and leaving them there. But we believe that people are human beings and everyone must live along each other, and we need a social cohesion where we discuss this, but government must not fail the people. And I think it's government's responsibility to actually provide permanent housing for people in that particular area because they've been living there, they've been working there, their lives have been established there for years. So, right. Yes.
So one Reservoir Hills resident speaking yesterday was saying, well, they would be fine with 47 people coming to stay in the area. What they're not okay with is 47 families coming to live in the area because of a space issue and how that would impact the area. Do you think that's unreasonable?
Yes, I mean, some of the concerns that were raised by residents are valid. You can't have a number of people being brought in one building and be dumped there as if they are not human beings. It's not conducive enough. And in fact, yes, we do, in our understanding, the people who are at the Tudor home, which is a hall in Westville, who are now going to be relocated, according to government, to that particular place, are more than 47 individuals. They probably are in 47 families, and it's going to be a problem. And we are saying that there needs to be a clear plan that comes with government, from the MEC of Human Settlement, from the leadership of the KwaZulu-Natal through the Premier, to say the issues that people are facing, that are raising within the community, are relevant, and therefore we should stick around and have all stakeholders, including the people who are going to who are affected, because it's not conducive and it's not human. It is undignified for people to continue to live in those halls, and the government is not coming into forth. And this idea of scrapping an idea that is there, it prolongs the people's being liberated and going to their normal life. And we think it's high time that government takes responsibility and actually stop politicizing people's poverty and actually perform what they need to get.
What do you mean by politicizing people's poverty?
Well, I think the fight between the ANC, the new administration that came in, wanting to scrap what the previous administration has, and of course not wanting to have a discussion with us as baseMjondolo, who represents the people on the ground, and the one thing, and in fact, when we were surprised to hear it in the news that people are now going to be rented a building, when in fact we have identified land that with the previous MEC and the previous administration, and now all of a sudden they decide not to actually include the baseMjondolo, who has a membership based in that particular place in Honest Drive, who had a plan that we have discussed with the previous. Now they decide to sideline us, and all stakeholders are not being included in this. I think we are the right person to actually have a discussion with the Ratepayers Association in the area and all concerned as residents, including the ward councillor, to find amicable solution as to those that are currently living there and those who are going to be joining the community. So that we find some sort of social cohesion and an understanding among all the stakeholders.
And what bearing do you think your continued exclusion, as you say, would have on the ability by the city to make sure that everyone who was affected, especially in the communities where you are present, is actually resettled and put in a proper home?
I think the need for us, as I've mentioned, to have that discussion with the new administration in government is there. We need to have that discussion. We were having a cordial relationship with the previous government, but this new administration. So the problem is that you have an administration that has been changed as a result of the change in leadership of the ANC, and the previous minister the new minister does not want to implement the things that were put in place by the previous minister, and now it's no longer about the people on the ground, it's about politics. And therefore, that affects people on the ground, because we are facing a reality here. We have people who have lived in community halls since April. We have people who don't have places to stay, and we have people who have not been able to go to work. We have children who have never attended school properly because they live in community halls in a congested area, and now they are going to be relocated in a new place where they are not even don't know how long they're going to live there. I think one of the discussions that needs to be there in the stakeholders meeting, where we sit around the table with the residents that are concerned in Reservoir Hills and the people who are going to be beneficiaries of having moved back to their old life in that particular area. That is the only way that will get us out of this situation, okay, so that we move into the implementation stage rather than to always make promises and then going back and forth while people are struggling on the ground.
Thapelo Mohapi, good to get your thoughts. Thank you very much for your time.